Hello, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce such an expert as our next speaker, Robert Pająk, OpenTelemetry maintainer and principal engineer at Splunk, and he will talk, obviously, about OpenTelemetry with logs angle. The stage is yours.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, Patricia, for your wonderful introduction. So, first of all, can you see, if you want, you can go to this hyperlink and just see this presentation later online. There are also presenter notes, so you can even read like in a quick way later if you on your own pace. So we're trying not to rush. Usually when I'm very stressed, I'm rushing a lot. But this presentation will probably take like 15 minutes. So yeah, let's take our time. And basically this presentation will be about how OpenTelemetry Logs is evolving for the, in my opinion, least mature signal to something which is even becoming the foundation of evolution in OpenTelemetry. Okay, let's use the pilot first time in my life. And no, it's working. So, hi, again, I'm Robert Pająk. I traveled from Krakow, so I arrived today morning, which is very pleasant that I can go today to my own bed. I do not need to stay in the hotel, which I like very much. You can find me as Pelleret on GitHub, making some pull requests or issues, usually on OpenTelemetry, but not only. I'm being employed by Splunk, which is a company acquired by Cisco. So basically, Splunk mostly pays me for doing open source, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm one of OpenTelemetry Go maintainers, and also I have a role called specification, OpenTelemetry specification sponsor, which means that basically I'm approving the stuff which is going to OpenTelemetry specification. And I'm giving this talk because I'm contributing to OpenTelemetry Logs since November 2023, which is a long time, and I was pretty shocked when I checked it. And at last, I'm not an English speaker. However, if something is not clear, don't blame my English. It simply means that I have no idea what I'm talking about, or I cannot read from my notes, basically. But some people judge people by look, so I am prepared. And I have a lab coat. And now I look like a professional. Thank you. So people, when they're talking about something, usually they're describing the past, the present, and the future. But let's be honest. Who is interested in the past? Usually when talking about software which is evolving so quickly, we are just interested in what is now or what is in development, what is in future. So I saw that a lot of presentations were about OpenTelemetry, so I'm just skipping it, to be honest for you. Let's just keep our minutes. Our time is precious, but OpenTelemetry is a standard for observing, blah, blah, blah. Thanks. Here in this presentation, we'll talk about the following areas regarding OpenTelemetry Logs. First, the data model of OpenTelemetry Logs. What is a log record, basically? Then the semantics of log and events. Then we will also discuss the APIs. And basically, in all these areas, we'll dive into design decisions and some patterns, which basically changes how OpenTelemetry Logs are from legacy baggage, basically. They're becoming something more powerful and something that may even have a bigger impact on observing using OpenTelemetry. And yeah, basically in this presentation, I want to prove that OpenTelemetry Logs are now a first-class citizen signal in OpenTelemetry, just like traces and metrics, because right now they look like a baggage. And they are not. However, I need your help. Please, who of you have seen logs like this? Please raise your hands. Oh, Jesus. Oh, there are some people who are not raising their hands. I think they're not telling the truth. I think they saw this kind of log as well. Yeah, but the thing is that we all have seen logs like this. Logging here, passwords as passwords in their logs. We've all been there. Yeah, the thing is that wasted logs cost money, slow down the applications, and they add a lot of noise, which we do not want to read. This is why we need a better logging standards. And this is why I want to say how a proper log record looks like in OpenTelemetry. So this is about the syntax, so the data model of auto logs. Basically, in OpenTelemetry, logs are not just a text with timestamp emitted to std out. It's a structure which also have timestamps, but there are even two timestamps, which one says when something happened and when it was observed or captured. Then the important thing, you have the trace context for correlation magic. So basically the logs in OpenTelemetry are correlated with tracing and potentially other signals such as profiling, if it's also correlated with tracing. You have proper severity. So you have levels, but also textual representation if you're using some logging libraries. You have the actual log message, or it could be even a structured payload. You have some additional metadata or log fields. Resource, which tells you what software has emitted this log. And instrumentation scope, which tells you about the actual code that emitted the record. And this isn't just about making logging more complicated. This is about making structured logging, integrating in your basically observability telemetry. And now, the body, which you have seen attributes and also attributes in scope and resources, can contain complex data structures. So these are not just simple strings or just simple numbers. They can, of course, there can be primitive values like string, int, boolean, or double precision floating value number, sorry. But it can be also an array of any value. And it is an array which is heterogeneous, which means the first item can be a number, the second can be a string, the third can be a structured. So also it can be a map of string to any value. So you can compose basically nested structures, something like a matryoshka doll. Or it can be also a byte array, so a binary object. At last, it can be nothing. So you can approximate to something like a BSON format. So something more than JSON. So here's some examples of the complex attributes. Right now, everyone talks about AI. So I have an AI example here, but it means that you can, for example, have attributes which tell you everything how you play with AI here. So, but the good thing that if you have substructured logs, then when you're emitting this data and you're trying to observe it later, understand something, you do not need to deconstruct these little flat labels or whatever and make some archaeological dig to understand what's happening. You have everything nicely structured. And but here's the more important thing, in my opinion, how logs are affecting other signals. The thing is that these complex values, these complex attributes are coming to all OpenTelemetry signals. It means to traces, metrics, and profiles. So it won't be just a logging feature. So it's like getting a free upgrade thanks to the logs to basically from an economy class from your plane to a business class. So imagine you can have in spans, you can add attributes with full payloads. So you can put the whole payload, what was requested, the whole responses, etc. Right now it will be possible. Okay, so I need a break. Any questions so far? Because we have time. Okay, so if not, then let's keep them later. So we got structure, but how we can make sure that everyone calls the log records, the thing which we emit, in the same way? How we make sure that 5 teams writing 5 services do not name the same things in a different way, so someone, when they look at the logs of these 5 services, cry because they do not understand why this thing is called a user and here it's called username, etc. So here the OpenTelemetry semantic conventions come in. So basically these are guidelines, like a big gigantic dictionary, which tells you how you should name things when using OpenTelemetry or maybe even other telemetry maybe APIs as well. Why not? So basically, these are the standards which tell you how to name things and how to use logs, so people have a common agreement how they are structured. And semantic conventions are organized into groups. First of all, we have cross-cutting attribute groups. So, for instance, here we have a code line number, because knowing where something broke is half of the battle if you can find it. Exception message to have the actual error. Service name and deployment environment, so you know what is the service that has broken, or it was production or staging. But there are also other signal-specific attribute groups. For instance, here we have some attributes which are only important for logging. At last, we have domain-specific attributes, as also you need some attributes for some protocol systems or shiny new tech like GenAI, right? One important thing which the semantic conventions also has is the distinction between log records and event records. So basically, in OpenTelemetry, a log record is just a general purpose login, human rebuild, something happened. So it's something similar to the first, basically, trash which we showed, but sometimes we need this thing. It can be structured and is better. But the event record is a well-defined occurrence with a strong semantics. It basically means something important happened. And event record have an event name and a well-known structure. So if you have an event record with an event name, you assume that each occurrence of this record will have the same structure, same attributes, and same model. So why do we need this distinction? We need it because not every log deserves to be treated like something meaningful. So the events are intentional and have purpose. And they are not like this debugging salt which we have seen previously. And this matters because right now platforms can treat event record as first-class citizens. So they can index them differently than other log records, they can correlate them intelligently, and maybe generate some alerts based on the occurrences of these events. Okay, so here I'll talk a little bit more. There is a nice article by Jeremy Morrell, called Practitioner Guide to White Events, which basically says, if we just logged everything with rich, what if we just basically record everything with white, rich events? So instead of having traces, metrics, as a separate things, just emit super detailed event records which contains all the context you'll need, all the attributes, all the correlation IDs, etc. Think about it. What's a span? It's basically an event that something has started with some correlation ID and something has ended with the same correlation ID. You need a metric. You could take it. You could aggregate the numerical values from your event attributes. And now I need to wrong button. I need to admit something. I was doing this kind of thing in 2019 in my previous job, and not because I was a visionary genius, but because I had only an efficient logs backend. So I had only something like Elasticsearch. I didn't have any other backend. And when you're stuck with some one tool, you just can get creative, basically. However, of course, there are a lot of big trade-offs of such approach. I do not say take it, use it. I just want to say that there are additional costs. There is processing overhead on the backend, and there is a big network traffic because you are not aggregating everything in your applications. You're just emitting a lot of data, which the backend needs to process somehow. But when it works, it's just an X-ray vision that you can basically, you can know everything about your application. You can slice and dice the metrics, the attributes, and see how everything is connected and what's going on in even ad hoc way. And I encourage you, I don't know why I have this, move cursor, okay. Thank you very much. Claps to the audience. Okay, you can read about these concepts online. So this article, Canonical Log Lines, is like from 2008 or something, so it's very old. And the second is White Events from Jerry Morrell. But you can find it also in my presentation later. It's available on GitHub pages. So until recently, OpenTelemetry Logs was mostly about getting the logs from basically std out or files or some logging libraries that you use that basically it was bridging or instrumenting existing logging applications. But what if you want to log directly something using OpenTelemetry APIs? What if you want to emit those beautiful OpenTelemetry events, which we showed previously? So here's the thing. User-facing OpenTelemetry logging API. This is the piece that finally gives the developers a way to emit logs and events directly through OpenTelemetry. So there is no need to go through the traditional logging libraries and have this bridge overhead. So it can offer you better performance. And you also have this full feature access to, for example, complex attributes. So you can even reuse the same attributes that you're using for metrics and spans and use the same data types and emit you using logging APIs, using logging APIs. And the thing is that it is a critical feature for instrumentation authors, because if you're writing an instrumentation library, if you're making an instrumentation library or you're instrumenting your own library, you do not want to add another dependency. So if you're a Java developer, you do not want your force your users to depend on log4j if you want just to add OpenTelemetry instrumentation. So this is one reason. But this also gives the application developers, so the ones that are basically writing software which you earn money for, are able to emit directly events using semantic conventions. And the thing is that it's not about replacing everything. It's about giving options so you can use whatever tools you prefer. And it's about migrating and dealing with what is better for you. So it's not that we are saying you cannot use your existing logging libraries. It's only about use the tool that works for you better. And now let's talk about the performance. Because what is amazing in structured logging if it will kill your application's performance? OpenTelemetry recently has added enabled API, and it is the way to check if logging is actually needed before you do all this complex, expensive work of building these whole structures and logging these payloads. It's like of measure twice but cut once, but for telemetry. So the idea is simple. Instead of before you do you waste your CPU cycles and memory allocations, you just check if it's worth doing it, and if not, you just do nothing. But the thing which is really exciting is that this functionality isn't just to make your OpenTelemetry Logs SDK faster. It opens the door to hooking to external systems, such as user events. So this is, I'm not sure who of you went on the talk about profiling. So there was this information about the Linux events. So so you could attach basically the login. You could integrate logging with Linux user events, which is a subset of this tracing for Linux. But there's also something called ETW for Windows, which is event tracing for Windows. And these systems are so damn fast that writing regular log records is like writing on a pen. So if you want to deep dive into this concept and this idea, there's a great presentation by CJ Thomas and Chris Gray called Beyond OTLP: Unlocking the Potential of OS Native Tracing. Okay, what did we learn today? Let me summarize the journey. So we've all been in this trash logs thing. So I just want to say that right now OpenTelemetry logs are structured, and moreover, we have complex attributes which are also going to arrive to other signals. And we have semantic conventions that not only define the attributes, but also distinguish between the log records and event records. This is kind of the evolution which everybody should make everyone happy. Developers get better observability and operations get cleaner data. Okay, that was kind of a lot of information. I'm done with talking. I have sore throat. It's time for your questions. Time for you to talk.
Anyone wants a mic? Let's go.
Hello, Alexander.
Hello again. You're saying that previously about this trash logs previously, which are not structured and so on, and after that you introduced these attributes which can have any value type.
Yep.
And to me, this sounds like also some kind of trash when you can put anything into these attributes for structured logs. It would, from my experience, it would be better to have only string types there, and it will reduce the complexity of everything and will make it more consistent from my perspective.
Okay, thanks for your question.
That's
first of
just
all,
recommendation, not question.
I would say it's a kind of a question as well, because the thing is that these are kind of trade-offs. Because when you have this text and number values only as metadata, they are very easy to index. It's very easy to make an efficient structures in some databases, etc. That's what you want to basically mention, because you're working for Victoria Metrics, so it's an important thing of your job. But the thing is that one thing is about having indexes, but sometimes people just do not care about indexes. They just want to have raw data. So the thing is that the semantic conventions of OpenTelemetry would most probably will never use these structured objects into metrics or the things that will mostly probably be indexed. So yes, giving power. So with big power comes big responsibility. Basically, we are perfectly aware that we can cause harm, but the thing is that even right now there are a lot of, like, I'm working for Splunk, and Splunk is able to index very complex structures. It's not easy, but it's possible. So it's basically a trade-off. Basically, who wants to put? Yeah. I hope that if it's not a question, then I just want to agree that yes, it can be a concern. Doesn't mean that if you have power, you need to use it. You want to follow up? Yep. Yeah. We have time.
I have a follow-up. I think that it would be better if you could put arbitrary structured attributes into strings, and if the application which accepts this logs from OpenTelemetry wants to parse the strings, then it can parse the string. And if it wants just to index the strings, then it just indexes the string.
So the thing is that this is the thing which I shown is only, for example, this is the data model. It doesn't mean that the thing needs to be exported that way. One of the proposals is that the SDK's OpenTelemetry SDK would emit these complex structures as a JSON string. So this is possible. It can be done via processors in collector as well, or in the SDKs. So we are not locking the door for people who would prefer to have everything as strings. And then the application just do not need, the thing is that as an application developer, you decrease the burden of thinking, if I want to have something complex, I do not to JSON for myself. I just pass it to the processor, which will deal with it. But these are good questions. Thank you.
Hey, nice talk. Thank you.
Thanks.
Quick question. So I know that today we have span and span events. And how is that different from logs and well, from span and logs, I know the difference.
Yeah.
But like what is the difference between log events and span events? Will span events be there forever? I think there is plan on deprecating that whenever logs is stable, but yeah, do you have any insights on that?
Okay, so first of all, in open source projects, you never know the future. But for what I see as a specification sponsor, and when I'm talking with the TC and I see the community, I would say that span events will be there forever as a structure of something which is there. I think still the application developers need, even if it will be deprecated, will need still to be supported, because once it's there, people will use it. It's about also backwards compatibility. Probably the semantic conventions may prefer events over span events, but maybe there are use cases which I'm not aware where span events are better. The biggest difference is between event records, like from logging, and the span, is that the span is aggregated right now. So basically, you do not get the information about span event until the span is finished. So one of the reasons behind also the OpenTelemetry events is that it is even possible to replace, to use the OpenTelemetry APIs for tracing, but the SDK, instead of using the tracing SDK, could leverage logs SDK to emit events, like a streaming thing. So something like tracing basically in the kernel, because this is how the tracing in kernel works usually, right? You have basically structure, something started, something happened, and it's streaming. It's not that you do have no information about when something finished, because one of the problems of span is that when application crashes, when the span is active, you often do not have information about the span. This is a very common complaint. And also long-running processes, long-running spans, people do not know what's going on. So this is one of the potentials where events can be better than spans, and also span events from the same reason. Have I answered your question? Do you want me to follow up, or?
No, it's good.
No?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. Big fan of OpenTelemetry. I already talked to your colleagues before. Could you please go back to the slide about performance? There was one with the the branching when you have the if instruction.
This one?
Yeah. So I was under the impression that many logging frameworks already do this kind of discrimination. So at startup, you would have some kind of environment variable that sets your log level or something, and you set it for production to info, and maybe for development to debug or trace.
Yes.
And I was under the impression that many logging frameworks already skip the execution of the log instruction that is encapsulated by the right-hand side branch. And well, that's a performance gain, obviously, in the runtime of the application. So I don't exactly understand what do we gain with the right-hand side, the after, assuming that your logging framework does skip, let's say, debug events when you set log level to info. So that's my first question. What's the exact benefit of this?
Okay, so that's a good question. The thing is that different languages are different. So for things like log4j, yes, if you use log4j, it does this kind of thing for you basically. That's one thing. So it might not seem important, but for instance, in slog, in Go standard logging library, it's not like that. So basically, if you have the interface to hook something from external, it expects you to tell you as a hook, as an interface, to call if it's enabled, basically. We didn't want to replicate, basically, and replace the functionality of other. We just wanted to basically, so basically, there are different designs of logging libraries. That's one thing. But the second thing is that there's, for example, a declarative config. I don't know if you heard in OpenTelemetry concept that you have a YAM file which you call when you can define define your configuration of your telemetry. So one of the things is the configuration of the logger, when it should be enabled or not. So if you will have a logging breach, and if a logger is disabled, you need this method basically. You need to tell log4j or something that this is not enabled. So if you centralize, so depending where you configure these logging levels, if you configure it on log4j, you do not need it. But if you configure it on an OpenTelemetry level, you need to have some way of communicating the other systems if something is enabled or not, right?
Okay, this does explain it.
So it basically depends on the direction of your integration. If you go from if you just go plain through the logging library and just use logging library, then it doesn't seem necessary. But if you use OpenTelemetry and OpenTelemetry SDK configuration, different languages, then it's needed. Okay.
The short answer is simple. When you call this logger info, you pass arguments to this function, and
But
as you can see, you
but the
pass.
thing is, the thing is that this is not even called when you use, for example, Log4j, and it's this is the thing that it's, in many cases it is not even necessary, right?
But it's I also thought that in any programming language, arguments which are passed to function should be evaluated before passing them to functions. This means that these arguments which call other function, which should be called unconditionally, even if the logging library is disabled. And if these functions are expensive, then you get these expensive calls, even if logging library is disabled.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great talk, Robert. I have a question about the structured logging and like the logging events and stuff like that. How expensive is it to pass and store structured logging versus unstructured logging? What sort of performance implications does the logging backend have to handle?
So as I told you before, it's very expensive, and that's also why Alexander says that you should use text. It's a lot more expensive, so there's nothing like a free lunch, nothing like a free meal. So basically you need, depending on your backend, you need to have some trade-offs. So from my personal experience, because this is the easiest way how to do, when I was using this, just need to know if I'm going forward or backwards, okay? So when I was describing this, which is basically obfuscated and easy sample from some visuals I was really working on, we were just having retention for these logs for 3 days. So we were not keeping long-living metrics, etc. We just think if something is important, then it will have it for like 2 days. So each metrics, each structure, we were basically having a very short retention policy, because we just knew if something happens, then we just need to make sure that it's available from Friday to Monday, because if something happens, then usually knew something very quickly and we could react. But yeah, it very depends on the operations, on the team. Like there's no one solution that fits everyone, I would say. Thank you.
I don't see. One more question or
Comment.
That's just final words. I would like to say thank you for developing this format for logs for OpenTelemetry. It is very good quality and we use it in Victoria Logs actually. And I like that this resource attributes map to log streams in Victoria Logs concept very good. And the integration of this format, OpenTelemetry format for logs, was smooth for Victoria Logs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, then a last round of applause to our excellent speaker.
I also have some special thanks. So I would like to thank you, these people who are helping me a lot in logs work from the OpenTelemetry. There are also some guys who helped me a lot in implementing logs in OpenTelemetry Go, and these are not only maintainers of OpenTelemetry Go, these are also other people from the Go community and Rust community. But also for the Go and specification sake. But I would like to thank you, everyone here, basically, who ask questions, because it keeps the talk interesting if you interact. So thank you very much for you. And I also want to thank you. We have a lot of OpenTelemetry contributors and maintainers here. And I want to give them big claps for all the guys who are helping here. Yeah, and GenAI helped me a lot in this talk, basically. And now go forth and log responsibly, and you can find me on GitHub. And that's all from my side. Thank you. These emotes, some of them yes, but some of them are by own. So all these graphics, all these rectangles. So if someone's interested, we have still 1 minute. Basically, if I just go to this one, so basically this is open source. Oh Jesus. Okay, now better. Okay. So this whole presentation is here. So basically, it's not a Google. It's not Google Slides or anything. There's a cool project called SliDev. So basically, you can create your presentation in Markdown and use CSS and HTML. And the good thing is that Copilot could help you then a lot of making images. You have Git history. You do not need to play with animations that you add a new bullet point. So I really encourage you using it because it's cool as a developer to basically use coding for your presentation. Yeah, thank you.
I must say that I love your very professional lab code.
Yeah. Without it, this presentation wouldn't be that good.